Hello, 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 hello. Now today's video is brought to you by whiskey. Refreshing. It makes me feel like I want to bang some broads and assassinate the president. This may be a bit too early in the video to have an aside, but in JFK's election campaign, he wasn't allowed to wear a hat. This is because he had a very presidential head of hair. This will become relevant later. Now the first part of this video is a video response to 1992 Jarheads on alcohol, in which he says he doesn't get immersed in the drinking culture that much because he just doesn't like the taste of alcohol. He goes on to say that drinking is so ingrained in the most of us that it seems quite absurd. Now 1992 Jarhead, you are very right in this. When you first start drinking alcohol, it does taste horrendous. The short answer to this is that as you grow older, your taste buds will become kind of less good. What this means is that the awful, stingy, bittery part of alcohol, like whiskey or spirits or beer or things, becomes less of an issue. And it's at this point where something like whiskey, for me, tastes like... I think the best analogy is, you know when you were a kid and your mum gave you vegetables and really awful, icky things like carrots and parsnips and things that weren't smiley potato faces. Mother, if you don't take those horrible vegetables away, I won't let you play Transformers with me. And what you'd do after you got fed up of your parents badgering you to eat your vegetables, you would cut off the smallest, tiniest bit of carrot and put it into your mouth and feel like you want to throw up. But what generally happens is then you grow up, your tastes mature a little bit, and then you realise you quite like carrots. It's the same sort of thing with alcohol. If you had told me at the beginning of university that I'd be talking at you now about why whiskey is brilliant, I would not have believed you. But instead, I'm talking to you now about why this tastes literally divine. It's because when you start university, you're very pressured to be in one of two groups. The down it, whoa kind of group, or the I'm going to have a cup of tea and read about Marxism kind of group. I think the best middle ground is to drink like the French do. Now, I'm not a big advocate of doing what the French do in any circumstance, but in this instance, what the French do is they drink with meals. Now, you don't have to have a meal to drink in the French way, you just have to drink very slowly, like you're an intellectual. This is the reason why if you go to Lyon on a Friday night, it won't be full of idiot people puking up and getting arrested and having stupid fights with each other. Now, Jarhead 1992's second point was that drinking is absurd. By this, I don't mean that he's saying that everyone who drinks is an idiot, which he wasn't, because he's a nice human being. But what he was saying is that as human beings, we overhype the importance of drinking. He's saying that drinking is just a thing that exists, but all of his peers and his friends were gathered around it like some kind of holy grail. His main point was that a lot of his peers didn't think that they could have a good time without drinking. A concern which is completely justified. Which brings us on to the second part of our video. One of the major things that you learn from the age of 18 to 21 is that life is absurd. It's not to say that it isn't structured, it's just structured really, really, really weirdly. So why do we drink in the first place, when on the surface it just seems like a bit of a ridiculous idea? Basically what you're doing when you're drinking is saying, I may end up in a bush with someone who I don't know or don't like or don't find attractive. I may get arrested, I may puke up, I may embarrass myself, but pfft. And that can be transposed into other areas of life. There's no rational reason why John Kennedy's beautiful locks would influence voters' opinions. But they do. I drink this at a pub because it makes my endorphins happy, and I interact with people better. I'm a nicer human being, I'm more interesting and more animated and more... I make videos on the YouTube because it fulfills a social function. For whatever reason, human beings just really, really like to be in groups. When that fantastic cat Emil Durkheim went over to Australia to study Aboriginals and their religion, he got quite confused for a bit because they were doing things that seemed quite absurd. They worshipped what he called totems, like little stones or feathers or bushes or things. What Durkheim concluded was that the actual action of worshipping a rock or a stone or a bush or a floor or whatever wasn't actually all that relevant. Why the Aboriginals did these things was to feel safe in a society. And that's exactly what alcohol does. That's exactly what football does. That is exactly what going to the cinema or going to a rock concert. It makes us feel closer to each other. And that's why alcohol is as popular as it is, because it breaks down those inhibitions that keep us separate from each other. P.S. Do get housemates that make brilliant cakes. Human beings just really like being...
Distinguished 3 different...
Go away, Shelley Kagan.